Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name is Tim Murdoch.
And my name is Matt Emmert. And if seeing today's special guest on the Black Christmas movie poster doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight. That's right. And for those of you familiar with that slogan, you'll definitely remember our guest because she played the iconic opening victim, Claire Harrison, in the original 1974 Black Christmas, a film that's truly one of my favorite horror movies of all time. She also went on to play Patty O'Connor in the 1983 slasher Curtains, a girl that would literally kill for a starring role. Please welcome to the podcast, Lynne Griffin.
Wow, that was lovely. That was perfect.
Thank you.
Like, yes, right on the money.
Well, thank you. Well, we're so happy to have you here with us. And, you know, we read that you're originally from Toronto. So when you were growing up, were you always interested in acting, you know, even from a young age?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was born into it. My dad was a high fashion photographer, and he actually used me as a baby, like model for diapers and, you know, little knitted sweaters. And I actually have some of these pictures. My mom, of course, kept everything. My mom was a talent agent. My sister took over the talent agency and now represents me. So it's been my whole life, you know, feast and famine, of course, you know, that sometimes it was great. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely like the little child model. I was on the cover of my grade 4 speller, the hard book cover.
Oh my God.
Which led to a lot of people drawing mustaches and Satan's ears on me. And then I started doing television commercials, and then I got a kids like magazine television series that lasted for 5 years. And then I started doing theater, and then I went back to doing more commercials and more television and more television. And now I'm busier than ever. I think, you know, grandmas have come into style.
and growing up, like when you were doing all these auditions and everything, did you make time for horror films?
Yeah. Were there any that made an impact on you at a young age?
Yes. My two scariest ones are, I don't know if you know, The Time Machine. Where,
like H.G. Wells?
Yeah. And at one point, he has to go back in time. And so his whole body kind of decomposes right in front of your eyes, like in seconds. That one scared the shit out of me. Sorry, the poop out of me. And also,
no, we cuss, please. It's the shit.
Oh, okay. And so the other one was The Werewolf. I'm very frightened of not the, like, you know, American werewolf in New York or Paris or
London,
but the original werewolf where his face all started to get furry. That scared me too.
Did you see the one with Michael Landon from Little House on the Prairie? I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
I don't think I have.
I don't think I have either.
Wonderful film.
Wow. No, I'm thinking of that one. Wasn't there one? I don't even know. I can't remember. I can see his face, but I can't remember the star's name. Was it American Werewolf in Paris?
There's American Werewolf in London, American Werewolf in Paris. There's Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
It's probably, you're probably thinking of London.
I think I'm London.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
but
a classic.
My husband just said, and what about the Lon Chaney one? That might be the one that was scaring me. Because it's like a really old film.
I mean, those are some, like, you picked some classics. Good for you. Like that.
And not classics. To mention, like, the original, like, Frankenstein.
Yeah.
With Boris Karloff, especially, you know, I mean, I absolutely adore the Mel Brooks Young Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
To the end. But the original one can be very funny, too, now that you look at it and you go, especially when you're keeping the Mel Brooks one in mind. And the little girl is, I love this pretty little flower. And you're, there she goes, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so moving on to Black Christmas, that was the first film that you were in, right?
Oh.
The
first one I'll talk about. It might be, although I did a film called Divertimento, which was a short art film. And it played with Fellini's Amarcord in the movie theater. But
wow.
It's my probably my one and only nude scene.
Oh,
Nude
Lynn.
scene. Well, yeah. I'm
Hey.
sure you can find it online. I mean, it's a very, very beautiful film, and it's very tastefully done, she said. But I mean, at one point, I'm sort of swimming in a lake, and obviously, I've taken my lovely little Victorian dress off. I'm swimming in a lake, and a tramp comes along and steals my clothes. So, but they had said to me, can you do one of those lovely, like, somersaults in the water where your lovely feet will come up and then, side down? I went, yeah, sure, I can do that. Well, what you see in the film is you see my head go down and this large white ass come up and then disappear.
That is, well, look, you're talking to two guys who've interviewed so many people in horror that I'd say half the people we've talked to have done nude scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Black Christmas is actually pretty, well, I'll say, I mean, it's not racy in terms of even its horror because it's more psychological than bloody.
And there's no nude scenes.
I mean, it was groundbreaking because, whatever, in 1974, the Jess character discusses having an abortion. That was huge back then.
So what was the audition process like for the role of Claire? Like, do you remember the audition?
Yeah, I mean, I tell this story quite a lot because I think the only reason I really got the part was I was, obviously looked like the number one virgin you'd like to kill. And also because I could swim. I was a good swimmer, so I could hold my breath for a long time. And I told them that.
So you mean you were like, hey, if you want to strangle me, I can hold my breath for a long time.
Yeah. And I did go on to play a lot of dead bodies in my career.
That's a skill,
My husband and I laugh because we made a list at one point of how many ways I've died on film. And it's extensive.
That's pretty cool.
Wow. And did they ask you to audition for any of the other sorority sisters?
No, they didn't. No, not at all. I mean, I think, this face was just like, and the long kind of pathetic hair.
No, you're gorgeous.
I know, you were so cute.
You just want to go, oh, Claire, come on, get with the program. You're such a virgin.
And I loved your plaid skirt. I thought it was adorable.
Oh, yeah.
It's adorable.
Oh, yeah. I looked like, didn't I? I looked just like that absolute schoolgirl. But
it's a preppy look. I love a preppy look.
Well, so I have
okay.
Yeah.
I don't have that skirt anymore. I did grow up in a school where I had to wear like a plaid kilt. I don't know why.
I mean, me personally, aside
Tim loves wearing plaid skirts.
Classic preppy look.
Yes.
Do you have a plaid jacket? Like,
I have plenty of plaid.
He has plaid. He has sweaters. He ties around his neck. Very, very very Yeah.
But this isn't about me. It's about you.
Okay. But I'm glad there's do you have like what did you say your last name was?
Murdoch.
Well, then you must have your own tartan book.
I know.
I'm sure there is a clothing line for Murdoch. There is.
There's a clothing line for Murdoch?
Yeah.
Is it preppy clothes?
Yeah, it's like Irish kind of stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Have you ever watched the Canadian two long-running series, The Murdoch Mysteries?
No, I have not. But
I've heard of it. I've heard of it. Yeah.
I was in one of the original movies. My husband was in it with me, Sean Sullivan, and I played a woman whose son was a young policeman, and Sean played the guy who murdered him.
You have so much murder.
I love it.
It's in my blood.
It's in your blood. Well, I have to ask, as you were talking about your look, but of the four main sorority sisters in the film, the cautious and prude Claire, the free-spirited, foul-mouthed Barb, the very responsible Jess, and the sweet and supportive Phil, who were you, Lynne Griffin, most like at the time?
I definitely grew into Barb.
But aren't we all Barb?
I feel like we're all Barb at some time. How about back then? Do you think, were you a Barb?
I mean, it was such a joy to watch Margot work and assist her performance now and then with a little, she was so in character. Yeah, I mean, because some of the things, not all of it, but because the script was it was shot pretty close to the script, but some of Barb's scenes had a little improvisation in them.
I can imagine,
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the film, the sorority girls get a call from, the moaner, and then this absolutely terrifying voice proceeds to utter some really vulgar stuff at them. But we read that when you were actually filming that scene, you all were just reacting to the director, Bob Clark, saying some lines off screen that really weren't that obscene. So can you tell us about filming that scene, and how different was what Bob was saying versus what's in the film?
Well, Bob basically was just saying, you're reacting. It's an obscene phone call. He wasn't going, he wasn't doing, although he did do Billy's voice along with Nick Mancuso. But he wasn't doing that. He was just sort of explaining. And of course, to me at that point, being, young and virginal, an obscene call meant, I'm going to come into your house at night and steal your panties. So when I actually saw the film, I was quite shocked.
It still shocks today.
I'm shocked that they got away with some of it, although I guess maybe some people, because it was kind of mumbled, and maybe they didn't really catch that C word and that, whatever, but I don't know.
Can I just tell you, watching the movie now with subtitles has helped us realize, because when I first saw this movie, I was like a teenager and I caught little bits, but not everything. So now as an adult, I've watched it with the subtitles, and I 100% recommend that for anyone. You can hear and find out every single vulgar thing they say. Yeah.
I have to watch it with subtitles. God, Matt, I've never even thought of that. That's brilliant.
Be ready, God. Lynn. Be ready, because there is some.
Yeah. I mean, Billy ain't no choir boy.
I guess it's safe to say that you were when you eventually heard what they were saying, you were shocked as well.
Oh, yes. Yes, very much so. And, I don't know whether I was at a screening, but I kind of looked, and Bob is just the biggest teddy bear uncle guy you could ever love in your whole life. But he was like, so.
I gotcha.
He said, didn't I mention that it was blue? And I went, I don't know that I really knew that blue meant anything but the color back then.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Like when people say it's blue comedy, it's like it's kind of dirty.
I didn't even know that expression.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking blue like sad, like, oh, I'm feeling blue.
No, blue like a blue movie would be sort of verging on, I guess, porno, maybe.
Oh, so then what color would be full on porno?
Oh, baby.
Den color.
Flesh colored.
So after warning Barb, Margot Kidder, not to provoke the caller, your character goes up to her room to pack for the holidays and plays with the cat, Claude. Now, first off, I got to ask, because that cat did not look friendly. It literally jumps out of your hands the second you pick it up. So was the cat difficult to work with?
Yes, the cat was a total diva. Cast obviously for its looks, not for its ability to perform. When we were up in the attic shooting that scene, it was basically me, Bob, and the cameraman, Bert Dunk. But we were trying to get the cat to behave, because what, Bob wanted the cat to do was jump up on my lap, come up and lick my face, whatever. No way was this cat going to do this. So Bob was literally sitting in the chair opposite me, and he had his foot on the rocker. He was rocking it, and he would hurl the cat at me, and the cat would kind of land on my thighs and then slowly with claws go down my legs.
Oh.
So what they eventually did was they sprayed the bag with catnip. But that cat, and the funny thing is, when you watch the film because I watched it once, like on an IMAX screen. And it's amazing how many times that little cat makes appearances that I didn't know of. Like you'll see him down at the bottom of the frame and you'll go, that little bugger Claude. Look, there he is stealing the scene down there. Yeah. Yeah. But most of the cats I've worked with have been impossible. They won't do what they're told. They have to be thrown at you and to do anything and land on your head.
Cats aren't dogs.
By the way, the classic horror scene with a cat, I feel like I've seen this in every horror movie, when they open like a closet and a cat jumps out at them, and you can tell that it was thrown because no cats. I do have a cat, and I like to
so do I. I have 3.
Yeah, I like to say he's the sweetest cat, but no cat would ever just jump like they do in horror movies. You have to throw it.
Yeah, I don't think there's training cats. They do what they want.
I mean, there are a few people that have tried, like we actually saw some kind of circus show once where this woman had trained cats, and it was really quite incredible what she managed to teach them to do. But I mean, in general, I think they just look at you and go, "Are you kidding me? I'm not going to do that." You know, not unless there's a treat at the end of this. But
it's all about those treats.
The cat's like, "Oh, funny human." Keep crying.
Yeah. They're just so tolerant of us.
So, you know, after you pack, sadly, Claire becomes the killer's first victim and gets suffocated by the plastic coverings on her freshly cleaned clothes. It's actually a really scary scene. And I'm just wondering, like, how did they go about filming that? Like, did they really wrap all that plastic around you for how long? Was that scary having that done?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you meant doesn't that say something about Claire that she has her clothes dry cleaned? I never even thought of that.
Right
Claire,
before going home for the holidays.
It's awesome.
Really, Claire. I mean, dry cleaning. Okay. Well, maybe back in the day. But so Bert Dunk, the cameraman, like a lot of the stuff that he shot with a very early rigged up kind of steady cam or body cam. I mean, it wasn't what we have today at all. It was literally just something he'd strapped to himself with a couple of belts. And he was in the closet. He was deep in the closet, and it's his hands that actually strangle me. And yes, we used real plastic dry cleaning bags. And yes, we did find out that, usually when they use something like that, they'll poke holes in it up your nose or in your mouth so that you can breathe. But we found that, condensation was forming underneath and you could see the bag moving slightly. So we just went, full Monty on it and just like literally put it over my head, sucked it in my mouth. And I mean, I'm amazed when I look at the film to see how long I managed to hold that position with my eyes open and unblinking and not breathe. But I mean, we did it for reals, guys.
Oh, that's
did you have a panic effect? Because when I watched that scene, there's a lot of scary scenes, but something about being strangled in your closet by plastic wrap is terrifying to me. So did you have a panic response?
Well, I must admit, after that film, I never got my clothes dry cleaned. But no, I mean, there are things that really terrify me in horror films, like home invasion, being buried alive.
Oh, yes.
Plastic bags, not so much. And when I go to conventions now, sometimes you're at conventions with a lot of big celebrities, and they kind of walk by you like you're the frequent flyer fruit, I call it. Who's that? I don't know, and they keep walking. So if they don't pay attention to me, I bring a plastic bag and I put it over my head and I sit there. There are pictures of me with the plastic bag on my head. I do it at every convention when things get slow.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
And I let people take pictures that, they want to take pictures of themselves with me with the plastic bag on my head. That happens nearly every time now.
That's so cool. I wish that we were at a convention where you did, because for listeners, obviously, if you know this film, you know that image of you with the plastic bag over your head is the iconic image from the film. It was on all the posters, t-shirts, it's just everything. So it's almost
all the
like
DVD
you said
releases. Yeah,
everything.
I mean, it was so sweet when we were doing the film. At one point, Bob Clark took me, into his office, and he said, I just want to show you the poster to make sure you're cool with the poster." And he showed me, I actually have like an original poster with a bag on my head. And he said, "I just think this is going to like be extraordinary to use this as the poster, but are you okay with that?" And I said, "If you got to get your picture on a poster someday, you better just take what you get," right? I mean, it has been extraordinary. And I think, it's helped subsidize my career because I sign that poster everywhere and I send out photographs of that poster with autographs on. I mean, it is. And I also, because someone said, I don't know whether in that time, in that genre, I'm considered the first victim in that genre. And I tell you who told me that, because I just worked with Eli Roth, who did, because Eli Roth is now doing a full-length Thanksgiving.
Yes. Wait, are you in the new Thanksgiving movie?
Yeah. I just play a cameo.
You don't understand. We're so excited about that. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. But Eli Roth said to me, "You are what we consider in the horror genre the first victim." I was surprised because I went, okay. But like all the Halloween stuff came later, and a lot of those films were inspired by Black Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's like a slasher because a lot of people look at Black Christmas as one of the first slasher movies. And because, a lot of people will say Halloween started the slasher genre, but that was 78.
Really
Black Christmas was 74. Right. So you really are like the first slasher victim,
Right. And the thing is, I know for a fact because I was very good friends with Nancy Loomis, who was in Halloween.
Oh, my God.
And I actually, when I lived in LA, I bought John Carpenter's house, John Carpenter and Adrienne Barbeau's house. So I lived in that house. And Nancy told me that John was completely influenced by Black Christmas for all the Halloween franchise. It's also Quentin Tarantino's favorite film. And Steve Martin's, they tell me.
Wow, I love it.
I read that Steve Martin saw it like 12 times.
Their favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah, I love that. That's incredible. We're talking about your iconic look with the plastic over you, and even though you're killed off early in the film, I swear the film cuts back to you in the attic probably 5 times or so, rocking in that rocking chair. It's really eerie, but I'm just wondering, did they film all those attic scenes all at once? Or like, how long did you have to constantly film rocking in the attic?
Oh, well, we probably shot in the attic for nearly a week, all different kind of, angles and lighting and all that kind of stuff. And they knew, that it was going to be an ongoing theme through the movie. And in fact, I think it's hilarious that I've never found.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, hey, let's search the house, but not the humongous attic, which is a perfect place to stash bodies,
Exactly.
And is the sorority house, did you film inside the actual house, and is it now a tourist attraction?
Well, it's not really. It is a tourist attraction, although I think now they've put up a big fence. But yes, a lot of people yes, it is. We filmed everything in that house. Everything was in that house, except for obviously the police station and the university and the music studio and stuff. So yeah, the whole house was, it was the Christmas party house, and it still exists. It's in Rosedale in Toronto, and people do ask to go there. I don't know how friendly the new or the current owners are in terms of letting you walk through it. I don't know.
Would you know what they use?
Your scene was in the actual attic? Like they got the whole crew up in the attic?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
and I know you've on DVD special features, you and Art Hinkle did like a walkthrough of the house, which is awesome. Yeah. But the current owners, do you know what they use it for, the house?
They live there.
Oh, well, because it's just so huge.
With Billy?
No, I mean, I guess it's just because it's so huge. Do they have a huge family? I guess I thought you'd be using it for like
a sorority house.
No, it's whoever it is. It's their residence. And that's
Wow.
why, because I actually had a friend who said, well, there's a big fence in front of it now, but I snuck in the back door.
What?
I'm like, what?
Just like, but
Just
Billy,
like Billy and Agnes do that all the time.
I know. Can I tell you, can I give you a big reveal and wonderful thing that's going to happen?
please.
Yes.
We are shooting a sequel to Black Christmas. And it's you'll find if you go on, Black Christmas site, you'll see, we've got an Indiegogo campaign up now. But this guy, Dave McCrae, had been talking to me for ages and ages about trying to do a sequel. And I kept saying, Dave, that's really nice. I will support you in whatever way. But of course, I'm dead. Anyway, now, and Claire is dead. So, but anyway, what they've done is they've written the sequel. It's called It's Me, Billy. And in it, I will play Claire's sister, Nancy, who is a private detective. And she is now trying to finally solve the murder of her sister and the people that were killed in the Black Christmas house.
That's
It's
amazing.
so amazing. We actually did know because we follow Dave McRae on Twitter, and I was saving this to ask you toward the end of the interview, but it's totally okay. It's totally okay.
Okay.
We are so excited.
I'm just so proud of him, and I'm so proud of what they've done, and I'm so excited.
Yeah.
First off, I can't tell you how excited we are about this. We saw It's Me, Billy chapter 1, the first half, and then we actually contributed to his Indiegogo campaign because, are you kidding? Like, how can you not be ecstatic as a Black Christmas fan? So first off, we have to say we're so excited that you're doing that. And it's going to come out in 2024, right?
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, you've seen the first half. They're excellent filmmakers.
Yeah,
They
it's
really
beautiful film.
Let me just tell you, as Tim and I, we love fan or tribute films, and we've seen a lot, and it was one of the top quality, best ones we've seen.
Yeah.
Like, it was just done really well. Even the way they captured Billy and the calls and the characters, we were just really into it. And it's sometimes, not all fan films can get you that invested.
But we were into it because, as Matt just said, some of them not so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I agree. And I've been trying to help with giving them, perks and trying to get stuff out there. But I was just so impressed with it. And also their timing is impeccable because 2024 is the 50th anniversary of Black Christmas. That is beyond any filmmaker's wildest dreams.
And you got to give yourself credit.
Claire,
they have.
Well, yeah, when I said I'm very happy for the news of Olivia to eclipse the news of me being in the film, when everybody goes, how can she be in the film? She's dead.
Hello, Jamie Lee Curtis was killed many times
in Halloween.
Exactly. Look at any kind of thing like that. We love being on series that they kill you and they go, well, it doesn't really mean we won't come back.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Olivia and Margot Kidder because two of the big co-stars in the film, because it's funny, we've read some conflicting accounts where some people have said during filming they both kind of kept to themselves while others said they were really friendly and personable. So what was your experience like working with Olivia and Margot on the film?
I would say they did pretty much keep to themselves, but then in a way I was kind of kept separate from them just because of the nature of the role. Although I will say at the time that I shot Black Christmas, I had been doing a lot of Shakespeare at the Stratford Festival in Ontario. And so for me, I, wanted to grab Olivia and sit her down and talk her all about Romeo and Juliet and working with Zeffirelli. And she was very willing to oblige that. And as I said, she's kept a Facebook friend all this time, and her daughter is doing really well. And she's now, she has written a book that she's getting out there to promote more. That's called The Girl on the Balcony. It has about a quarter-page reference in the book to Black Christmas.
That's
it's about this big, but it's mostly about her playing Juliet. So I was just starstruck to be able to talk to her. Margot and I didn't really have many scenes together, and I think just the nature of the way our two roles kind of rubbed against one another, we didn't kind of sit down and, get high together or anything.
She was like, Claire's so boring. I'm taking a drink.
I know. I know. It's very hard to get cast that way when you go, I'm not really like that at all. I'm a party girl.
And even though you didn't have any scenes with him, did you get to hang out with John Saxon or any interactions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, John Saxon wasn't originally cast. So he was flown in at the very last minute and shot that, awful freezing night in the park where the little girl is found. And then John, I did a lot of conventions with John. I would sit at his table because then, you sit next to John, you get a lot of people talking to you.
Just throw that plastic bag over you.
I didn't need the plastic bag then. I had John. But he was a really, really lovely guy. And, he kept doing those panels and Q&As right up until the end. I remember the last one that we did, he was getting very frail. But he still did them. I thought that was incredible. I think the last one we did was a fan expo here in Toronto. But yeah, he was great. And man, the legacy of the films that he has made. And when you sit beside him and the fans are coming up to him, I mean, they're not really, putting his performance in Black Christmas at the top of the list. But boy, I mean, he was well loved in the horror genre. And,
definitely.
Sci-fi stuff.
Been in so much. And your boyfriend in the film, Chris, we talked about, was played by Art Hindle. Now, we read on IMDb trivia, which by the way isn't always correct, that you and Art also dated in real life during production. Is that true?
Oh man, who wrote that?
She is sitting next to her husband.
Well, I mean, no. Here's the thing.
No. Well,
she tells me all about
Sean's met all. I brought Sean back from LA when I lived there, and he came to live with me here. And he's pretty much worked with, because he's an actor too. He's worked with all my previous. What would you call them?
Acquisitions.
Acquisitions. No, that is totally fictitious. In fact, Art was my first screen kiss, but when we did one convention together where he brought that up, and I looked at him and I went, really? I don't remember that. And he said, you don't remember kissing me? And I said, no. He's never let me forget that though. But I just said, no. Did we have a scene where we kissed? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen now that, I see the film again. I go, okay, it was a little kiss. But no, we never dated. Now, we have worked together a lot since then, and he's a very, very working actor. It's great. We've actually, we played on I'm trying to remember, we did an animated series where we were actually supposed to be like really old, but still like hot little hotties, like old, like, I don't know whether we were supposed to be, I don't know, neighbors or something, but there was some indication that they were
involved,
more than friendly.
You know what's funny, Lynn, is that like IMDb trivia, anybody can submit stuff, and we always go to it because I'd say 50% of the time it's true, but the other 50%, it's really funny. And we've brought up things like this in other interviews, and they're like, no, that's not true at all.
Well, at one point I read that I was like 5'9" and weighed 110 pounds or something, and that somebody had called me that my nickname was the neat Canadian lady.
Wow. It could be worse.
I mean, that's so specific. Like, who could even think of that to make it up,
Well, believe it or not, I have now met this person. He actually, he's he found me on Facebook, and he actually told me I'm the person that coined it. And I said, oh my God. Well, you try and, I love him. He keeps coming back. I keep saying, he keeps coming back, and he's lovely, and he finds like ancient films and TV shows that I've done and sends them to me, and he's a dear. And Yeah, I think he lives in Texas, and I'm going to do the Houston Horror Convention. So I will finally meet him in person.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
But, you
wow.
know,
I don't
it's
know.
kind of a sweet, heartwarming story.
I hope
hope.
someone calls me a neat Canadian
I know. I
woman.
was going to say you should, when he gets up there, be like, "Hi, nice to meet you. I'm the neat Canadian lady."
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose you're the neat Canadian guy.
Yeah.
Or no, you're the Texan guy.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
the neat Texan guy. You know, so another obviously major part of Black Christmas was the director, the late Bob Clark, who also went on to direct some very big comedies like Porky's and A Christmas Story. What was his directing style like? Like any stories from working with Bob other than him throwing the cat at you in the attic?
Yeah, I mean, he was so lovely. You know, the thing is, people think that when you're making a horror film that it's going to be really like hard and kind of creepy, and you know, maybe some of them are, but Bob just made it like, because we were all in that house all that time, it was just like an ongoing Christmas party. He's just so easygoing and so inventive. You just saw like his mind going all the time. I mean, I called him Uncle Bob. He was just so lovely. And, you know, most of the time we kind of hung out in that main room and, you know, pretended it was Christmas. And it never seemed like it was, I don't know, like I guess I would imagine some of those women who worked on Saw, they wouldn't say, it was so much fun. It was lovely.
That
I
is
had so much
hilarious.
fun hanging upside down and being slit from, you know, so and so to my mouth. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
So, you know, he made it very, and also because he was so ahead of his time in terms of his filmmaking, you know, that he was imitated a lot after that in terms of his work. Certainly Steadicam being that like the POV of the actual killer was very much his idea. And, you know, it was Burt Dunk climbing up the outside of the trellis and all of that stuff. I mean, I kind of felt he was like a kid in a toy store.
I love it because it's just, and it's so funny. I remember when I first found out that Bob Clark, the director of Black Christmas, also did A Christmas Story and Porky's, because they couldn't be any more different. But he's he really is a master of suspense. Like that opening scene with Billy climbing up the trellis, like it's so scary just because
it's unnerving.
Yes, it's unnerving because anybody who lives in a house thinking about some stranger like crawling into like a window.
Yeah, it's like I said, am I terrified of home invasion?
Yeah.
And seeing his one eye through the door.
Haunts me.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned in the special features of the Blu-ray that you went to the premiere of Black Christmas with your mom. And so we were just wondering, what was it like seeing on the big screen for the first time? And of course, what did your mom think?
I think my sister was there too. I mean, bless their hearts. They used to come and see these premieres, and because I shot another film called The Amateur, where I'm in a hostage situation, and I'm taken out on the street and shot at point blank range in the head. Yeah, with an actual pistol with a blank, which of course nowadays I wouldn't do. I wouldn't let anyone do to me in, you know, a million years. But back then it was like, yes, of course it's safe. So they've seen me die a lot. They had seen me die. You know, I mean, we enjoyed it as well. You know, it's so funny because I will say when my mom came with me to see Divertimento, she was very me in peculiar ways, but she actually got up and pointed at the screen and said, "That's my daughter."
During the somersault in the water?
Maybe not quite at that moment.
Not that scene.
I would say right during the somersault.
Her head in her popcorn, but yeah. I did a stage play once, and it was in the Round. And I said to the ushers, please don't let her sit on the aisle. Don't let her sit on the aisle. Sit her way back and don't let her sit on the aisle. Well, after intermission, isn't she right downstage on the aisle? And at the curtain call, I come out to take a solo bow, and she starts coming towards me with her arms extended onto the stage.
Oh, my God.
To hug me.
What did you do?
That director never let me live that down, nor the rest of the cast was like, what was that?
I would love if you're
Mom.
like, Mom, sit down.
Sit
Mom,
down.
And it was. I mean, when she came toward me, I was going, Mom, sit down, go back. Mom, get off the stage. Mom, stop it. Stop. Go back.
That's hilarious. Oh, that's such a, but that's love. That's so sweet. Yeah. Like, you know, and just to finish off Black Christmas, in your opinion, why do you think this film has such a huge cult following and is still celebrated today, almost 50 years later? What do you think?
Well, I think partly is the brilliance of, I would say mostly the cinematography, not so much the script per se, although it's interesting to me that young women that I talk to now find it a very empowering film for them because of Jess's character and the fact that, I mean, no spoilers, right? I mean, Jess, this is a spoiler, so cover your ears if you don't want to hear what happens in the sequel or you've never seen It's Me, Billy. But Jess does give birth to that child. Mm-hmm. So she is pregnant and she doesn't get an abortion. And I thought that was really an interesting point that Dave McRae brought up. But that is, I think because we think that she has, in fact, killed the killer at the end, you feel her very empowered that she's she is sort of the first heroine of horror films, that she actually takes it on herself. I mean, can we just mention the scariest moment when she's going past the stairs and that her hair gets pulled?
Oh my God.
I've seen it a million times.
Her scream is so perfect at that point too.
But I think there's moments like that. And you know, to be honest, it didn't really have the kind of notoriety that it has now. Once it came out on DVD and Blu-ray and stuff, and once Facebook kind of rediscovered it, then it really catapulted it up into a new stratosphere, because it did remain sort of, people watched it at Christmas, but I wouldn't say, and I would literally say in the last 5 years since I've been, just willing to talk about it and promote it so much, it's been overwhelming the people who want to talk about it and want to know stories behind that. And also because I'm very out there and willing to promote the film. I'm very proud of it. But I'm surprised that in the last, I will say 5 or 10 years, it's become so iconic and so popular and so rediscovered. And that's not something that you ever think will happen when you make a film. I mean, it wasn't particularly a high budget film or a high profile film back in the day. And I do think it languished for a while initially after its first screenings and stuff. It didn't really, take off like it has now. So, I thank the fans. The Facebook fans, and also, I don't know whether it was Anchor Bay or someone who did the re-release on DVD and did a beautiful remaster of the film. These people who now remaster these films, I mean, Curtains is one of the, if you want to go, it'll segue to Curtains. Curtains was one of the films that really languished. Like it went,
oh my goodness.
And the only version of it for years was this horrible bootleg with 4 other bad horror films. And then these guys took it and remastered it and made this gorgeous Blu-ray. I mean, we were all shocked. I mean, Leslie Donaldson and I went to New York to do the sort of soundtrack, talking about it behind it. We couldn't believe how beautiful it was.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a lot of it. It's like these, I don't know, I guess they're historians or whatever, these people who decide to bring these films back to the public consciousness. That one and Curtains have really benefited from that.
Yeah.
Well, I have to ask, did you see the 2006 or 2019 versions of Black Christmas?
Yes, I did. People initially told me don't.
Well, so we actually really enjoyed the 2006 one. The 2019 one has absolutely nothing to do with the original. It's just a totally different film.
Right.
Yeah.
So to even call them Black Christmas, I mean, is it a 2000? Which is the one that has the black goo and the fraternity and?
That's the 2019.
Yeah, the 2019 one should have been called something different. It's like supernatural.
It's tough stuff.
But the 2006 one, it kind of explores more of Billy and Agnes. It's definitely different than the original, but they do have an opening scene killed, and she's always stuck in the attic with a plastic bag over her face.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't seen that one. Maybe I've
the
only
2006 one is gross, but it's entertaining.
It's fun. It's a fun one. The 2019 one you can skip. But
that's the one I saw.
Oh no!
Now you tell me. But the interesting thing is, It's Me, Billy focuses very much on Agnes and Billy.
Yes, yes, and we love
there
that.
will be a resolution.
Good, good. We can't wait.
Or conclusion.
No, we love that. We seriously can't wait. Well, like you said, a segue to jumping forward 9 years to 1983, you starred in another slasher film called Curtains, but this role was very different because you played Patty O'Connor, this pot-smoking, puppet-wielding comedian who's
foul-mouthed.
And she's competing with all these actresses for a role, and they start getting picked off one by one, and then, spoiler alert, it's revealed that you're the one killing them. And so we were just wondering, how did you get involved in this film? And when you auditioned, did you know it was for the role of the killer?
No. And also because, looking at, the breakdown of the roles, it wouldn't be the role that I would think I was right for. First of all, she's a stand-up comic. And, I was like the most serious Miss thing, Stratford actress, serious, I do only classical projects, blah, blah, blah. So it wasn't a natural fit. And I don't know whether I probably went in and read for something else. And then I don't know what he saw to say, try. I don't know. I mean,
well, when your character is first introduced, you're doing stand-up comedy. Is it true that you wrote your stand-up set?
Yeah.
You did? So good.
So they had you write it and perform it live.
Yeah, and perform live at Yuck Yucks, which is a comedy bar in Toronto that started Jim Carrey's career.
Nice.
And I was in front of a live audience.
As someone who's done stand-up comedy, I think you did a fantastic job.
Yes, have you done
thanks.
it?
I mean, I was terrified.
Have you done stand-up anytime since then?
No. I mean, some people have cast me in funny roles, especially now, the old funny grandma. But no, I mean, I had not, and I had no desire after that shoot to pursue stand-up comedy. I thought it was the most difficult thing in the world.
I agree 100%.
I agree. I couldn't do it.
But you're already like vulnerable as an actor. And then you get up in front of people as yourself and try and be funny. Wow.
Wait, and actually going back to the audition question, when did you find out that you were going to be the killer? When you got the script?
Yeah.
Was it changing a lot? Was it changing a lot? Like the script? Yeah.
No, the script was locked. That script was locked more than any, even though, and you'll know in the final film that the original director took his name off the film and we went back like a year later and filmed more scenes, and they, because they wanted it to be more juicy and more sexy with tits and stuff. And, they wanted, more blood and slashing. But, the film has flaws, let's say. It really does, because you're going, who's that guy in the jacuzzi? And what happened to him?
Yeah.
And why did they fall out the window? And what happened to... Yeah, I mean, you don't know. Anyway, and who's killing who when, and you're not really sure what's happening.
I think that's why I like it so much.
But so you said you found out when you...
Yeah, I guess, in the end, you get the call from your agent and they say... they're interested in you for the role of Patty. And you go, wow, Patty, okay. And at that time, anytime, I am game. I will, as my husband said, stop saying yes to everything. So, I was actually, I loved sort of the idea and the challenge of it. Um, Even though, like, my favorite scene was the dramatic scene on the stairway with John Vernon, because that's where I felt comfortable, and where I felt like I was in my wheelhouse. Whereas the rest of it, I was going, well, I don't know. There's a scene with me and my puppets or something, and oh my God, that was just
But you're really funny in it, though. And also the very ending scene when it's revealed that you're the killer, you do a great job of looking pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah. And the thing is, that wasn't the original ending. And I actually have photographs of the original ending. The original ending we shot in a little theater in Toronto where Patty had lined up all the dead bodies on chairs behind her and on the stage in a proscenium theater, and she's doing her stand-up act in front of the dead bodies.
I love that.
When Peter Simpson came in, I mean, he just trashed all that stuff, and he, did the whole scene in the kind of costume crazy prop shop with Sandy Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was brought back to, be knife wielding at Samantha Egger. All that was like
in the
new.
Kitchen.
Yeah, all that was new stuff. And I must admit, I loved Richard Chupka. I didn't realize there was any tension or conflict while we were shooting it. He was like an auteur. It was one of his very first, but he was European. He had a sensibility. There was such beauty in his directing. It was almost like a foreign film in the way he shot it, and his, circling around the table with all the women sitting at the table. And I mean, I really, really liked what he had done with the film. And, I think one of the reasons it languished so long is that, they didn't like it the way it was. They didn't want to release it that way, and they wanted to reshoot and stuff. And then it kind of disappeared, and it really disappeared for the longest time until they did the remaster, which is beautiful, by the way. We couldn't believe how gorgeous we all looked because we looked terrible on the bootleg.
Well, we've seen the quality of the remastered, and we've seen the bootleg too, and it is 100% different.
Oh my God. Yeah. 100% different.
For listeners who've never seen Curtains, you've got to check it out, because one of the things that I think is really scary about it is the killer's mask. And we're wondering, it's just such a scary mask. And since you were the killer, did you ever actually get to wear that mask, or was that never you?
Yes, it was all. Yes. And don't I wish that I'd spirited it away at the end of the shoot, as well as that doll. And now I would be a rich woman. I could sell it on eBay for thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. I mean, we all had a go at the mask. I mean, it isn't me, spoiler alert, because I can't skate. It isn't me skating.
We were just about to ask you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And poor Leslie Donaldson, who trained skating for weeks and weeks before the shoot. On the day of the take, in the first take, she fell and cut her lip. And you can actually see it if you look closely, that they tried to cover it up, but she fell. And so they had her stunt double do her skating, which was really disappointing for poor Leslie. Although, she can just still tell people it was her. And I tell people it was me in the mask on the skates. But, if that's what they want to hear and that's what they want to believe. But, no, it was obviously the stunt woman who did all that.
But you said you did. I mean, other than the ice skating scene, you did get to wear the mask.
Yeah, there was a scene where it was like being tossed around in the sort of an acting session that we were doing, and everybody wanted to try it on, so we all tried it on. I actually have somebody made a bobblehead doll of it for me and gave it to me. It's lovely. I still use that, I sign that picture of her as, and sign it for autographs, because people people love that hag. They just love it. I think you can actually buy a replica of that mask now on some.
It is scary. And, you know, you mentioned the ending and that there was the original ending with the bodies around, but I just had a question for you about what you think. So the ending, she's doing stand-up comedy in an asylum, and I guess my question for you is, does that mean the whole beginning part when she's doing stand-up in the comedy club, was that all in her head and she was in the asylum the whole time?
I'm laughing because people think that. People go, how much of it was real and how much of it was, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, my feeling is that it's all real. And yes, she did the comedy club and she did. And, whatever you see chronologically happen is what really happened. And at the end, rather than putting her in prison for killing all those people, she ended up in a mental asylum.
Got it.
So I take it literally. A lot of people don't, though. A lot of people think that there is some sort of mental disconnect.
I didn't know. I thought maybe it was in her head and she never was doing comedy. It was always at the asylum, but I can see that. Or maybe that was her first trip to the asylum after the murders.
And your mom was in the asylum too, right? I mean, like
Yes, in the beginning of the film, I love it. I say to people, I actually give out prizes for people who can pick out who is my mom at the beginning of the film in the asylum. They always get it wrong though. But yes, my mom loved to kind of finagle her way into getting into some of my films. And she'd say, could I be an extra? So yes, she is in the beginning. She's not the one with all the curly, massive hair who looks like me. But I think now, like if you took a screenshot of me now and then looked at the film, you'd be able to pick her out. Oh, she's kind of one that does this kind of oogie boogie thing at the door.
I love that. Well, just kind of wrapping things up, Lynne, and thank you. So you've been incredible. And we've had so much fun with you. Like, this is when we were going to ask you about the It's Me, Billy chapter 2.
Yeah.
But we're wondering though, and even including It's Me, Billy chapter 2, do you think there could be any more horror in your future?
Curtains
too? You mean?
Well, I'm doing a lot of little indie horror films. I have one called Mourn that's out. I have one called Kilgrin. I'm just about to shoot one with my husband called God of Frogs.
Wow.
I've shot lots. I love these little indie horror films that people are doing now. And so I've said yes to a lot of them, and they probably are floating around out there. I know Mourn was out there. It's done by a company called Landed Entertainment, who also then did Kilgrin, which we just shot this past year, so that hasn't been released yet. But my dream is for someone to cast me as the lead in the film as a serial killer. Oh. I mean, come on. You look at this little face. She lives next door to you. She invites you over for a cup of tea and some cookies. And then she poisons you and she cuts you up and stores you in the basement. I mean, somebody out there has to write this film.
I love it. You hear that, listeners?
Yes.
Lynne Griffin as a kid. Well, I mean, you did it in Curtains, and now you can do it now.
Did you get the part of Audra?
In Curtains?
Yeah. No, afraid not. I guess Audra was never really made.
Isn't that because the director and all the actresses were killed?
The Curtain sequel should be Audra.
Wouldn't it be fun to do if you could do? And some people have, come up with this idea, over, a bottle of wine at some point at some convention, saying to me, like, make a remake of Curtains where all the actresses are now like my age, and we get like Leslie, and we get some of these ladies back, and or whoever we can get who's still around, and we recreate Curtains with all of us in our 60s now. Yeah, Wouldn't that be
love
cool?
that.
Absolutely.
I love
There's
that.
another idea I put out there.
Yeah.
Wait, I
Universe.
also
You could have the doll, you could have the mask, you could ice
or
skate.
I have an idea. What if they did a remake of Curtains where instead of actresses competing for a part, it was a bunch of gay men like us competing for a role?
Oh, yeah. And then can I be the director?
And have a female director. And then we're all, yes. Oh my God, I love
Oh,
it.
I love it.
Kim could play the part of the stand-up comic.
Yeah, I'll write my own material just like you did.
There you go.
I love it.
Go. And what would you play, Matt?
I mean, I would play the ice skater and I would train for months to be able to skate and then fall the day of the shoot and not get to film it.
Yeah, but they put makeup on.
That would be my
Would you
luck.
wear like
cover it up.
a pink fuzzy hat and pink fuzzy mittens?
Yes.
I love
a
that.
scarf?
It's like the iconic scene in Curtains.
I love it. I love it, you guys. You know, like from our lips to God's ears, that something like this could happen. Are you both actors? Like, I know you say you're a stand-up.
I've had my SAG card for 20 years.
I've done I've done theater. I've done theater throughout most of my life, but never like pursued it.
But hey, you know, we just go, let's get a barn and a digital camera and let's shoot this thing.
I mean, if Bob Clark could do it for Bob for Black Christmas,
I love Bob Christmas.
If Bob Clark could do it for Black Christmas,
call it Bob Christmas.
Bob Christmas. Oh my God! See, we're coming up with idea. It's like a brainstorming session right here.
It's like a brainstorming session.
I love
exactly. We'll call this our pitch.
Yes. Yeah. We have one final question for you, Lynn, and we ask this to everyone that we interview, and it does put you on the spot a little bit, but what is one thing that you can tell us about your experience working on either Black Christmas or Curtains that you've never told any other interviewer, publication, convention Q&A, or podcaster? It doesn't have to be something juicy, or it could be something juicy.
We know you stole the doll.
You know, it could be something small, but just something you have never told in another interview or convention. That's something about either Black Christmas or Curtains.
Wow, that's good. And you know, my mom used to say that my middle name was Frank, like that I just spill.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? I don't keep anything kind of like vaulted or some things, yes. But let me think. Oh, yeah. I don't know whether I tell people because it's a bit of a sad story that while I was filming Curtains, I used to get like picked up early in the morning by my driver and then, you know, dropped back at home. There were long shooting days. But there was one day that he picked me up and I hadn't been listening to the news. And I got in the car with him and he looked at me and he was like grief stricken. And he said, John Lennon has been shot. And I looked at him and I said, and we're going to work today? We're actually going to work today? And I think I told my husband that story, but I don't really tell it. And we did drive to the studio, but I think everybody that day was in shock and stunned. I don't know if we got a lot done that day. Yeah. It was just like we sort of wanted to be glued to a television to understand what on earth had gone on. And I think we played a lot of John Lennon songs on set, you know. Everybody was so grief-stricken. But it's those moments like it's, you know, when you were a kid, you remember where you were when John F. Kennedy was shot. You remember where you were when Martin Luther King was shot. You know, it was one of those moments that was so impacted everybody at that time. It would just seemed so rotten and unfair. And senseless. And yeah. So, you know, and you're shooting a horror movie and someone like that dies, it's then, you know, things do kind of come to a halt.
Yeah.
You know, the reality of that kind of stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those moments that you remember, like where you were when you found out blank, like, and for us, it's like I always remember where I was when I found out Michael Jackson died, or like,
oh,
Whitney
me too.
Houston.
I was ordering an ice cream cone.
Oh,
I do remember that, and I remember too that Farrah Fawcett kind of got short shrift because she died and I'd worked with her just recently at that point. And I went, nobody's going to talk about Farrah Fawcett anymore because Michael Jackson died.
I know.
And Prince.
Yes. And George Michael. It was like
but, the list goes on now, doesn't it? It's like unbelievable. Tina Turner. Come on.
Oh, God.
I mean, there's just so many people, noteworthy people that are not with us anymore.
Oh, and my God.
It's kind of hard, when you get to a certain age to just go, we have to accept this. The fact that then there's such an outpouring of grief and love, and I mean, Whitney Houston, Jesus. But you go, I wish they could have been so revered, and I wish they knew. Well, they probably did, but I wish we talked about them more while they were alive, especially when they get to like they're dying in their 80s, and you're going, they've sort of been under the radar, not necessarily Tina Turner, but some other people that you just go, we forget about them, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, he died at 89. Well, he had a good run,
Yeah.
But it's hard. It becomes very much a reality, and so funny when you've worked in horror a lot. And like I said, I've died so many times, and then you think, "Oh my God, it's going to happen."
You're like, "Wait, death really does happen."
No, it doesn't.
And will anybody care? Will anybody?
I don't care.
We can tell you, Lynn, we would care with you. You have been such a delight today.
Okay,
seriously.
well, you can do my eulogy then.
No, but really, we're big fans. We're so grateful that you took the time to chat with us. Like like from Black Christmas to Curtains, and we can't wait for It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. We can't wait for Thanksgiving. And I have 2 other features coming out. I played Elvis's mom, Elvis's grandmother, in the film Priscilla Presley, shot by Sofia Coppola.
Wow.
And I did an Adam McGoyan film called Seven Veils as well, which stars, I'm the mother of Amanda Siegfried.
Oh my God.
So there'll be lots of films to see coming up. Just wanted to tell you too, it was 11 minutes after 1 when you're supposed to make a wish.
Oh, okay.
It already came true.
Okay, well, my wish is that we do the Curtains remake and that we get to work with you sometime in our careers.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, where do you guys live?
We're in LA. Both of us are in LA.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Hollywood. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I haven't been back, in 3 years because of the pandemic. And I have lots of, my husband is from San Diego, and we have lots of family there and lots of friends. We haven't been back since the pandemic. Our nephews are now like going off to college, and we haven't seen them in so long. So I'm actually really, really glad that things are opening up. We're actually going to go and see a friend's play this afternoon.
Yay!
We haven't been able to go to live theater in so long.
That's amazing.
Well, I hope your play ends today with the mother standing up and coming up to the stage and giving up.
Because it's a friend of mine that I worked with years ago who's now written a little musical play. And so I'm going, to support his work, maybe at the end of it. And it's closing today. So maybe at the end of it, I'll get up at the curtain call and hug him.
Yeah,
you should go up and approach him on stage.
I think I will.
Lynn, like I said, we had a great time. We definitely want to stay in touch. We'll keep you
please do
noted when the episode is going to come up. But really, we've had such a blast talking with you.
And let's talk again.
Of course, you've been really great, and thank you so much. And we will talk with you soon. Okay.
All right. God bless. Take care.
Okay. Bye, Lynn. Bye.
Make something creative happen.
We will.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Happy Horror Time.
This podcast is hosted by Tim Murdoch and myself, Matt Emmert. It's produced by Jacob Randall.
You can listen to the podcast directly on our website, happyhorrortime.com or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you stream podcasts.
We release new episodes every Monday. The first Monday of the month is always an interview with a horror star, and every other week we review a new horror film. Now, our reviews do contain spoilers, but you can check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter/X social pages the Friday before release day to find out the movie we'll be discussing.
If you'd like to contact us, you can send an email to happyhorrortime@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at www.patreon.com/happyhorrortime. Patrons get access to our monthly bonus episodes, all our regular episodes ad-free and a day early, our monthly newsletter, the ability to vote in our polls, and, Tim, are you ready for this?
Autographed Happy Horror Time stickers. I'm Tim Murdoch.
And I'm Matt Emmert, and we hope you have a happy horror time.